Fantasy TV shows have always accounted for some of the most ambitious and high-budget series to grace the small screen. From epic swords and sorcery adventures to innovative twists on the most supernatural and spooky corners of folklore, fantasy TV fans have never been wanting for rich series to sink their teeth into. While the genre has no shortage of greats, several fantasy shows stand out as essential fantasy TV shows. These must-watch series capture the very best of fantasy on the small screen. Each is packed with unforgettable characters, masterful world-building, and high-stakes emotional drama. Fans of the genre who haven't seen them at least once are truly missing out on the magic. Grimm, 2011 to 2017, when fairy tales meet police procedurals, fantasy storytelling finds thrilling new life. NBC's Grimm reimagines folklore through the lens of a detective story, blending crime drama with supernatural horror in a way few shows have managed. David Giuntoli stars as Nick Burkhardt, a Portland homicide detective who discovers his Grimm, a descendant of guardians sworn to keep the balance between humanity and mythological creatures known as Weezon. What makes Grimm an essential fantasy TV show is its inventive reinterpretation of classic fairy tales. Rather than retelling familiar stories, it grounds them in a gritty, modern world, creating an intricate mythology that feels both familiar and fresh. Each episode peels back another layer of its creature-filled universe, keeping fans hooked with rich lore and atmospheric tension. Beyond its clever premise, Grimm thrives because of its deep emotional core and memorable supporting cast. The friendship between Nick and Monroe, Silas Weir Mitchell, a reformed bluebird, gives the show its heart, balancing dark fantasy thrills with humor and warmth. Cows, 2024, Greek mythology gets a daring, darkly comedic makeover in this clever reimagining. Netflix's Cows brings ancient myths crashing into the modern era with wit, weirdness, and plenty of gods behaving badly. Starring Jeff Goldblum as Zeus, the show turns Greek mythology into a twisted dramedy of cosmic dysfunction, exploring what happens when immortals face existential crises. Cows stands out among other fantasy TV shows thanks to its bold tonal mix. It's part mythic epic, part biting satire, and it balances both sides of its coin perfectly. It's a fresh approach that feels tailor-made for today's audiences, using humor and chaos to examine timeless themes like power, identity, and fate. Every god and mortal has a distinct, layered arc, making the pantheon feel alive in new, unpredictable ways. Visually stunning and tonally fearless, Cows injects fresh blood into the fantasy genre. By treating mythology as both sacred and absurd, it proves fantasy TV can be smart, irreverent, and gloriously entertaining all at once. Penny Dreadful, 2014 to 2016, a gothic masterpiece that weaves literary monsters into a hauntingly beautiful nightmare image via MovieStills.db. Few shows embody dark fantasy as elegantly as Penny Dreadful. Set in Victorian London, it unites classic horror icons like Dr. Frankenstein, Harry Treadaway, Dorian Gray, Reeve Carney, and Vanessa Ives, Eva Green, in a world where monsters, demons, and the supernatural coexist with deep human suffering. What elevates Penny Dreadful to must-watch status is its sophistication. Its scripts are poetic, its visuals painterly, and its performances, especially Green's, mesmerizing. The show uses its horror elements not for cheap thrills, but as metaphors for guilt, loss, and faith. Every episode feels like a fever dream soaked in dread and beauty. Thoroughly underrated yet kept alive by a dedicated fanbase, Penny Dreadful is a testament to the fact that fantasy TV can be literary and emotionally devastating. It's a tragic love letter to the Gothic tradition, lush, layered, and unforgettable. Merlin, 2008 to 2012, a timeless Arthurian legend reimagined with heart, humor, and heroic charm. BBC's Merlin retells the legend of King Arthur through the eyes of a young Merlin, Colin Morgan, a sorcerer struggling to master his powers in a kingdom where magic is outlawed. His unlikely friendship with Prince Arthur, Bradley James, drives the show's emotional center and brings new depth to an age-old myth. Merlin broke a lot of ground in the fantasy genre with its perfect balance of light adventure and emotional storytelling. Each season grows in complexity, building a believable world of knights, destiny, and dragons that remains endlessly rewatchable. It's both fun and tragic, a coming-of-age story steeped in prophecy and sacrifice. While it began as family-friendly fantasy, Merlin evolved into a deeply moving saga about fate and friendship. Its finale remains one of the most bittersweet conclusions in fantasy television history. Plus, despite concluding over a decade ago, its visuals and themes still hold up, giving it a truly timeless quality that cements it as essential fantasy TV. Castlevania, 2017 to 2021, animated fantasy doesn't get more stylish, savage, or surprisingly emotional. Netflix's Castlevania, inspired by the iconic video game series, follows Trevor Belmont, Richard Armitage, Cypher Belnades, Alejandro Reynoso, and Alucard, James Callis, as they face the wrath of Dracula, Graham McTavish. What starts as a tale of vengeance grows into a complex saga of morality, power, and family. It's truly incredible to witness how Castlevania transcends its gaming roots to become a must-watch fantasy series even for those who have no interest in the source material. Its storytelling is cinematic, its action breathtaking, and its dialogue razor-sharp. Each season builds an operatic blend of horror, myth, and tragedy, all of which is animated with jaw-dropping artistry. Despite its violence and darkness, Castlevania is filled with heart too. The relationships between its heroes and monsters give it emotional weight, proving that animated fantasy can be as profound as any live-action epic. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997 to 2003, a genre-defining classic that mixed monsters, metaphors, and meaningful emotion. Joss Whedon's Buffy the Vampire Slayer redefined what fantasy TV could be. Sarah Michelle Gellar's Buffy Summers was both superhero and teenager, juggling high school drama with the fate of the world, often literally. The show's Monster of the Week format hid deep storytelling about identity, grief, and growing up. Its blend of fantasy, horror, and heartfelt writing makes Buffy one of the most essential fantasy TV shows ever made. It proved fantasy could explore emotional truths through supernatural allegory. Episodes like Hush and Once More with Feeling remain groundbreaking in both form and theme. Decades later, Buffy's influence on genre TV is undeniable. From Supernatural to The Witcher, countless shows owe their blend of humor, horror, and humanity to Buffy the Vampire Slayer's pioneering legacy. The Magicians, 2015 to 2020, when magic meets millennial angst, the result is darkly funny and deeply profound image via Moviestills DB. Based on Lev Grossman's novels, The Magicians is one of the most innovative spins on classic fantasy tropes ever to grace the small screen. The narrative centers on Quentin Coldwater, Jason Ralph, and his classmates at Brakebills University, where they learn magic isn't just real, it's dangerous. What begins as a fantastical academic adventure soon becomes a layered,